Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a YouTube message. The first question for today comes from Sam, and it is, do you think that DICE should balance the flare grenade by giving it the ability to stack lock-on missiles? I get this question a lot, and admittedly, it sounds incredible. Like the concept of being in a transport helicopter or a scout helicopter, and your pilot, your buddy over comms says, oh my god, I just blew my countermeasure. There's about 5 more Stinger missiles along the way. Can you do anything about it? And you're like, oh yeah, sure. Bust out my hand grenade like Rambo, toss it out the side. All of the anti-air rockets lock onto that. You fly away unscathed. That sounds amazing. The thing about it though is that this would basically be just a direct buff to the scout helicopters and the transport helicopters, but also the tanks down on the ground against javelins. In my opinion, the scout helicopter and the transport are in a sweet spot right now. Before the patch, or before the recent updates, basically when Battlefield launched, I would say that the transport helicopter was weak and the scout helicopter was basically overpowered. Like if you were in a scout helicopter and you had a couple buddies in there repairing and also shooting stingers at other helicopters, you were a god up in the sky. Like it was incredible. But after some patching, not only to the scout but also the transport helicopter, I feel like they're in a sweet spot now where you can do very well in them if you're working with your teammates, but at the same time, you're not a tank up there. Like you can get taken out and you have to play smart. The thing about it though is that if you added in this new and improved grenade flare into the mix, how in the world would you ever take down a helicopter at that point? Like all the pilot has to do is basically activate their first countermeasure, let the first couple of Stinger missiles hit those, and then once they get locked on by the next couple, have their buddies throw out one grenade, have all of the missiles lock onto that, and then probably at that point, their next countermeasure is ready to go, and this entire time, they're raining death down upon everyone on the ground. You would once again make the scout helicopter, and arguably even the transport helicopter, a tank. You could have people repairing if one got by, and honestly I can't even see one getting by because of the way that the mechanic would work. And then once everyone runs out of their hand grenade flares, you would just go to a support player, ammo back up, and then you're ready to go to just destroy everyone down on the ground. And so that's the first reason why I would not want this to be implemented. My second reason is that this would be a direct nerf to the Javelin. The Javelin has not had a lot of love recently. It did get a buff, but I think DICE nerfed it once again. It was doing, I think, 34 damage per shot, so it could take out pretty much any vehicle in 3 shots. It was incredible. But I want to say that they dropped that down to 30 damage per shot. So still very powerful, it still does a lot of damage, but if you made it so that also hand grenade flares could deflect it, it would be almost not necessarily useless because not everyone is going to run around with hand grenade flares, but if a good tank driver or a tank driver that wants to be in a tank all day long has that activated, it's going to be pretty tough to take out that vehicle if you are using that particular gadget. And so it's for that reason and for the fact that it would basically make scout helicopters and transport helicopters just gods up in the sky why I don't think that this is really the best idea. The next question comes from Desert Eagle, and it is, what do you think about UAVs if they limited their function to detect soldiers who are running in the open outside of buildings only so it cannot detect people inside of buildings for some realistic touch? This is one of the best alternatives I've heard for nerfing the UAV. A lot of people out there, including me, would actually like it if they just completely removed it from the game. I mean, sure, the UAV, maybe on very large conquest maps, it adds some nice flair for the commander, it helps out their team, but if you're playing on Obliteration, or if you're playing Rush, it ruins the experience. You cannot flank around, it's almost impossible to flank and get on an MCOM without anyone knowing you're there, and that's what Rush is all about, like flanking and catching your enemy by surprise, getting behind enemy lines, arming the MCOM. That's what that game mode is all about. And so for me personally, I would like it if they just eliminate it from the game entirely. But your suggestion is a very good alternative. If I knew I was playing on a map that had a commander and they were spamming UAV like crazy, I then could just try and hop in and weave in between buildings. I could then make it so that I could flank and stay off the minimap. This would be better for some maps over others, like Lost Island wouldn't be affected at all because there isn't really anything you can hide behind. But for some maps, this could be the solution that a lot of people have been hoping for. Like it would allow you to play that stealthy role, it would allow you to flank around, catch your enemies by surprise, keep you off the minimap, especially if you're using a silencer, and have that stealthy type of gameplay. The UAV theoretically would still be useful because if people are out in the open, it's gonna mark them on the minimap, but it also would make it so that the commander has to think a little bit more about where they're placing this down on the field. Like if there are a lot of clumps of buildings, then maybe that's not the best place to do it, and they should probably push it over onto another objective. So I think that this is a really good compromise. If DICE wants to keep it in the game, which it's pretty much clear that they continue to want to have it in there, I think that this is a great suggestion. I don't think that would completely break the UAV by any means. I still think it would be useful, but it would actually give players down on the ground the option, as long as they're playing smart, to stay off the minimap, and I think that would be fantastic. The next question is, how would you feel about the MP-APS being buffed to stop hand grenades? When I first learned that this thing didn't stop hand grenades, I immediately thought that it was one of the most useless gadgets in the game. Like, I like the concept. It's cool being able to be in a tank, maybe bust this out. It'd be a nice way for you to deflect some of the tank shells, but realistically, this thing is just a pile of crap. Like, you never see this thing on the battlefield. I think the only time I ever see it is on servers where people are trying to have Christmas lights with their hand grenade flares and with this bad boy out. Like, that is the only time I see this gadget. And so I am 100% on board with your idea of making it so that it actually can snatch hand grenades out of the sky, but also maybe make it so that the cooldown on it isn't so excessive. Like, if you've ever seen it, like, it will snatch one rocket out of the air, or maybe like 2 rockets, but then it goes on, like, I don't know the exact specifics, but I think it goes on like a 30-second cooldown. That is a very long duration, and in my opinion, if you are using the support kit and you drop this bad boy down on the ground, in my humble opinion, it should basically make everything around you immune to explosive devices. Like, that would be an incredible gadget to use. And in my mind, if they did do this, or maybe not to that extent, maybe make it so that a couple of grenades can get by, but if they did elevate the power where it provided a nice shield from grenades, then all of a sudden, you have a gadget that I could actually see being viable on the battlefield. Make it so that if I place this down onto a capture point, that I actually have some security from grenades. Maybe make it so that I'm not just getting flushed out by 1,000 grenades because I'm using a gadget that's supposed to save me from that. And then, at that point, we get back to what a first-person shooter is all about. Not just grenade spam, not just spamming grenades everywhere, hoping that you get a kill, but you actually have to shoot at the enemy with your primary weapon to try to take them out. You know, first-person shooter basics. I know, this is crazy. And so personally, I think this is a phenomenal idea. I think this would be an amazing buff for this particular gadget, and it'd be the step in the right direction. I think it's the right thing to do. The next question comes from Jake, and it is, there is a weapon out there known as corner shot. Do you think that DICE should add this into Battlefield 4? Now, normally, I am all for adding new and unique guns into Battlefield. I think that it adds cool dynamics into the game, it adds some freshness to the series, but this is a gun that I'm not 100% sold on. So I'm assuming the corner shot gun you're referring to is this one right here, where you can literally stand behind a corner. It has a little video camera for you, so you can see what's behind that corner, and you can shoot from behind cover. And while in the real world, this sounds incredible. Like, the idea of being safe behind a wall, being able to see what's going behind or around that wall, and then shoot at anyone that's over there, that sounds nice. You don't leave yourself exposed, you can keep your face intact, and I want to keep my face intact, so I would be all for using this weapon in a real life scenario. But in a video game, this would be awful. Can you imagine how many people would just sit behind corners all game long and never expose themselves? Like, can you imagine what Operation Locker would be like? No, you wouldn't be shooting at anyone. Everyone would be behind like a cover, and they would all have this little gun peeking behind a wall and then shoot at anything that moves. Like, I don't think that this would work. Like I said, normally I'm all for having new and unique weapons in the game, but when you play a first-person shooter, you usually want to be shooting at someone, and this gun, while cool in concept, very cool in the real world, I just can't see this adding any unique gameplay, and I think it would just basically be abused, and you would see people camping behind corners all game long. But that's about it for today's Sunday Mailbox, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Once again, if you would like to submit your own questions that can be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a YouTube message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.